to me. WSRadio.com.
Accomplishment Coaching is proud to present the following fine programming. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach. AccomplishmentCoaching.com.
Welcome to the Coaching Show with your host, Master Certified Coach Christopher McCullough.
Thank you, Dick Warren, for that lovely introduction in which you do so evenly and perfectly each and every week when we are here to bring you the latest in coaching, what's happening in the world, what's happening in coaching, what's happening in the world of coaching. Thank you, my dear listener, for being with us again. Wade, did I tell you I saw Dick Warren? Yeah, I was riding my bike on the first day of the year, and I look over, and who should be there is Dick Warren. Had a nice chat and an opportunity to catch up. All right, my dear listener, let's talk about today's show. So you know how it is. We've been doing this show for 15, 16 years. How old are we now, Wade? It's been a long time. And each week we bring you likely one or two guests, people that are incredibly interesting, people that are doing something either useful or awkward out in the world of coaching. And this week will be no different, but we do have some differences for you. Lately, we've been welcoming different coaches, introducing you to different coaches as our guest co-hosts, and today is a day like that. Our guest co-host today is Shauna Battaglia. I'm sure, being that that's an Italian name, that I've somehow butchered it, and I apologize. Shauna Marie is a dynamic and creative entrepreneur that empowers others through life coaching, movement, music, performing, and teaching. Her brand is igniting people, life, and your future. As a life coach, Shauna specializes in working with women who have neglected passion in their heart and are ready to invest in what sets their soul on fire. Welcome, Shauna.
Thank you. And you got my last name right. I'm
Finally,
very proud of you.
Yeah, I thank you so much. If only my parents were here. All right, Shauna, how do people get a hold of you if they do as we have, fallen in love with you and want to work with you and want to ignite their lives? How do they reach out to you?
Absolutely. I have a website called Ignited You, and it's you spelled out, so Y-O-U. And then I also have a podcast that I recently launched, and you can find that at Ignite Her Fire.
Great. Tell me about the podcast. What do you do on Ignite Her Fire?
So I have a co-host. Her name is Sabrina. She owns a comedy theater. So we interview unconventional and awesome women that are doing really brilliant things in their life.
Great. So all the awesome women, go check out the Ignite Her Fire podcast. And if you're interested in what Shauna offers and perhaps working with her, go to Ignited, that's IGNITED, All right, well, today we're going to talk about, I don't know about you, Shauna, but when I was growing up, I heard a lot about it was bad to be telling stories. Don't be telling stories was another way of saying tell the truth in my house. But today we're going to have a whole show. The entire show is going to be experts in the area of telling stories, telling your story, self-promotion, doing the work of bringing people leadership through story, through analogy, through metaphor. And we're going to find out how we can be more effective in terms of telling our stories, in terms of doing work both in the workplace and in other people's workplace, bringing forward stories and how that's valuable. Our first guest is Debbie Stone. She is, check out her credentials. A JD, that's right, she's an attorney, and a CPCC, and a PCC. So this woman's serious about life and her credentials. Debbie Stone is a speaker, a workshop leader, and an author of The Art of Self-Promotion. Tell your story, transform your career. It's been hailed as an immensely practical and a perfect how-to guide for professionals. She's presented programs all over at corporations and universities, law firms, and business associations. She's the CEO of Novateur Partners, an executive coaching and leadership development consultancy, serving lawyers, entrepreneurs, corporate leaders, and the organizations in which they work. Prior to that, she practiced corporate law, as we suggested, for over a decade at a large Atlanta firm, and then later in her own practice. She joins us today, I believe, from Atlanta, GA. Debbie, we're delighted to have you on. Welcome.
Good morning. I am, in fact, in Atlanta, and I am delighted to be with you this morning.
There's no mistaking that accent. Now, I just want to give you a moment of reflection and silence, perhaps, if you need it, for the national championship football game that was just held recently with Georgia and some other team.
Well, I appreciate that. Fortunately for me, I'm a basketball gal rather than a football gal. So my season is still underway. I'm a Duke basketball fan all the way.
All right. Well, good to know. Okay, we got no we got no sympathy for that. I mean, no mourning for that.
Yes, not yet.
All right. Perhaps, Shauna, you have some questions about this whole notion of storytelling and self-promotion for Debbie.
Oh, I sure do. So I'm very interested in the subject because I do own multiple businesses. Debbie, what prompted you to write a book about the topic of self-promotion?
Great question, Sean. Thank you. And it's a topic that has come to be of interest to me based on a lot of the individual coaching work that I've done. When I wrote the book, I'd been coaching for about 12 years. And during that time, I worked with people ranging in age from those who had just graduated from college all the way up through people in their 70s. And I had worked with people in all sorts of industries, all sorts of jobs. And again, literally from folks who were just starting out in their careers to those who occupied the C-suite at Fortune 100 companies. And what I kept hearing from my clients over and over again is that they felt uncomfortable telling their stories. And my belief evolved to be that when we do tell our stories, we are more effective in our career paths, we're more effective as leaders, and it makes us stand out as the people that we are.
Yeah, I
realized the need, and that prompted me to start to do the work of writing that book.
I want to challenge you on that a little bit because
Sure.
One of the things, Shauna on her podcast, me on my podcast, and you in your business, we ask a lot of questions of people. And man, I will tell you, there is nothing more boring, the worst radio program or podcast you've ever heard is people jabbering on and on about their experience and what they did. And even slightly interesting people can be dull when they talk about themselves. So I have it that you must have some secret sauce here, because when people drone on and on about themselves, I don't know about you, but I check out almost immediately.
Absolutely. And one of the things that I drill into the heads of those that I work with, either in workshops or individually, is that you have about 20 seconds, we all do, to capture someone's attention, to establish your credibility, and to create curiosity. After that 20 seconds, it better become a dialogue, because your time with their attention, your time with them being engaged by you, will be over, even if they're still physically present.
And so what's important to get, what do you work with people on in that first 20 seconds? Because it's obviously not, this one time at band camp, right? So what do we actually want to get across in those 20 seconds? What's going to keep somebody engaged?
Well, you want to do two key things. You want to establish or reinforce your credibility. Establish it if it's somebody you've not met before, or reinforce it if it's somebody that you know. And then create enough curiosity so that the other person wants to ask you a question. You don't want to tell them everything that they need to know in those 20 seconds, because then the conversation is over. And without conversation, there's no relationship. And without relationship, there's nothing going on.
Gotcha. Okay, so did you get that, Shauna? Number one, we got to establish credibility, and number two, create curiosity. So, Debbie, is this where I can only imagine meeting Debbie at a party, right, or at a mixer, or at some sort of a function, and how do you work in something like, I used to be a corporate attorney and now I'm a coach? That seems that right there would be provocative enough for me to talk to you for the next 24 minutes.
And that's always a question. Once people know that I've made the transition, they always want to know why and how. So that's my money right there. And typically what happens is that we get into a conversation about something completely unrelated. So we're establishing relationship by having the typical kind of conversation that people have when you're interested in one another, asking those curious questions as coaches do, listening deeply. And at some point, it comes out that this is not what I've done for my entire career path, that I did used to practice law. And that's often where then the question comes up and the conversation then continues. So it's an organic process. And one of the things I always say to folks I work with is that it needs to be organic. This is about relationship building first and foremost. So you want to be yourself. And you want to do the listening and the question asking and all the things that we do when we want to establish a relationship.
Okay, so let's work with our friend Shauna here. So, Shauna, will you introduce yourself like you might at some sort of mixer in a way that you typically know to introduce yourself? A little pitch or a little elevator talk, whatever you do.
Sure. My name is Shauna Marie. I'm a performing artist, I'm a business owner, and I'm a life coach.
What do you think about that, Debbie?
So the performing artist part is what caught my attention because that seems different from being a business owner and from being a life coach. My suggestion to you would be to think about what is it that a prospective client or someone that you want to get to know better needs to understand about what you bring to them rather than what you do for them. Typically, when we introduce ourselves, we're focused on what we do. I'm an executive coach. I'm a life coach. I'm a business owner, as opposed to what do I bring to my clients. And I, for example, say I bring practice success.
Oh my goodness. I'm so sorry. My time clock seems to be off by about 4 minutes, but that music tells us that something's going on. We're about to make a break. We are talking to the great, the powerful Debbie Stone. You can find her at Novateur Partners. That's Novateur Partners.com. We'll be back to talk more about storytelling today on the Coaching Show. Stay with us.
Hi, Scale listener. This is David Finkel, co-host with Jeff Hoffman of Scale Your Business Radio. I wanted to let you know that our newest book, Scale, was just released and encourage you to get your copy. The book will give you 7 proven principles to grow your business and get your life back. It's for every entrepreneur who ever wondered if they really own their business or if their business owns them. It'll help you to work less by getting your business to produce more. Get your copy online or at your local bookseller. For more information, go to scaleyourbusinesstoolkit.com.
On the internet, your business's reputation can be unjustly destroyed in an instant. Don't wait for that to happen. Building and marketing your 5-star reputation can increase your business by as much as 19%. Take control of your reputation and have the 5-star reputation you deserve with Reputation Marketing Solutions by DSI Development. Become the go-to company by visiting 5starrepmarketing.com. The number 5starrepmarketing.com.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show you how to help others focus and be more fulfilled. Whether you want to improve your company's bottom line or create a thriving coaching practice, Accomplishment Coaching can give you the distinctions and practices you need to coach others effectively today. Accomplishment Coaching has spent 6 years developing a cutting-edge coaches training program that will have you ready to coach people professionally in just 12 months, and you don't have to take time off work to do it. To find out more about the Coaches Training Program, just call 1-888-548-6813. That's 1-888-548-6813.
Has your business been appified? Are you tired of doing marketing that doesn't deliver results? Mobile apps build loyalty and quality retention. Your app from UPG Mobile puts your business on their mind and at their fingertips. UPG Mobile will give you a custom app highlighting how you are unique, targeting your message, and improving your open rates. Appify your business and amplify your presence with your customers at upgmobilemarketinggroup.com.
In the military, things can change in an instant. Navy Mutual Aid Association, we understand because it's our life too. That's why our dedication to serving the life insurance needs of our military veterans and their families is unrivaled. Navy Mutual offers superior life insurance protection without military service restrictions and limitations. A single focus on providing the peace of mind military families are looking for. That's what we do. Navy Mutual, insuring those who serve. Call 800-628-6011 or go to NavyMutual.org.
Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
Accomplishment Coaching is proud to present the following fine programming. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach. AccomplishmentCoaching.com.
Welcome back to the Coaching Show with your host, Master Certified Coach Christopher McCullough.
And thank you, dear listener. As I said at the top of the show, we're trying a different format today, and sometimes things don't go as planned. So thanks for rolling with the punches here and the whoopses and the, oh, I didn't know that was going to happen, says. We are on, today is a rockin' and rolling show about storytelling. The entire hour, we've got guests about storytelling and how and what to do to make your story better, more compelling, more useful in the everyday world, and how we can bring it to our clients. Before we get to all the introductions, I want to give a shout out. It's time for a commercial to promote one of our longest time sponsors and our media partner, the International Coach Federation. Of course, we're delighted, honored, proud, and pleased as punch to be a media partner with the International Coach Federation. It's an opportunity to support the fine folks involved in the association and the important work they do. The International Coach Federation, also known as ICF, is the leading global organization dedicated to advancing the coaching profession. It's a standalone, non-for-profit company organization that's sole job is to promote coaching and advance the coaching profession. They do that by setting high standards, by providing independent certification, and by building a worldwide network of trained coaching professionals. In fact, it's the world's largest organization of professionally trained coaches. As I've said many times on this program, I also urge you immediately to go to their website at coachfederation.org. They have an incredible storehouse of research, the largest in the world, on research on coaching. There are useful things for you if you're answering an RFP, if you're creating a proposal, if you just want to be reassured that there's ROI in coaching. There are all sorts of studies on who's getting coaching and what they're getting out of it. And that's just one of the many things they do. As a member of the ICF, as I am, it brings instant credibility to our work as a credentialed coach. It brings even more credibility and the opportunity to work with some of the world's finest organizations. The ICF and we are committed to connecting professional coaches with the tools and resources you need to succeed in your career. To learn more about the ICF, to stay up to date on the latest news, visit them at coachfederation.org or follow them on Twitter at that's right, I said at ICFHQ. We're also delighted to have an ICF representative on this show every quarter. Most recently, check out the interview we had with their Director of Research and Education. What a good idea that is, to combine research and education here on this program. All right, let's get back to it. We got storytelling. Our guest co-host today is Shauna Battaglia. Shauna, say hello to the people.
Hello, people.
Great. Shauna is a creative artist. We found out a performing artist, as well as a life coach, as well as a business owner. And she specializes in working with women who have neglected passion in their heart and are ready to invest in what sets their soul on fire. You can find her online at ignitedyou.com or at her podcast, which is called Ignite Her Fire. It sounds a little dirtier than it is. It's a wonderful podcast, but it wasn't giving me the tips that I thought I might get from listening to it at first. In addition, we have Debbie. I'm going all over the place. We have Debbie Stone with us. She is a speaker, a workshop leader, and the author of The Art of Self-Promotion, Tell Your Story. She's the CEO of Novateur Partners. You can find them online at Novateur. That's Novateur, partners.com. She's joining us this morning from her home base in Atlanta, where she is a Duke Blue Devil fan, we found out. And you can, I think the biggest takeaway that I've gotten, Shauna, from our time with Debbie is we must establish credibility and create curiosity in the first 20 seconds of meeting someone, yeah?
Yeah, and I also really appreciated the telling telling what you bring to a potential client instead of what you do for them.
Yes, right.
That lands differently
Instead of focus on us, focus on what we can provide for them. If you want to download a free chapter of Debbie's book, go to www.selfpromotionbook.com. That's got to be the best title ever. Selfpromotionbook.com. You can download a free chapter, and of course you can buy the book there or at Amazon or wherever fine books are still sold. I want to introduce you guys to a woman I'm delighted to know both professionally and personally. Just a dear, dear, wonderful human being. She's also got a pretty impressive resume. Karen Dietz is a veteran in business storytelling, one of the originals in the field. In 2013, Wiley Publishers recruited Karen for their Dummies series. Her book, Business Storytelling for Dummies, was published and became a bestseller within a year. She opened up a 2013 TEDx conference in San Diego with her talk on the impact of story listening. You can find it on the web, of course. She has a master's and a PhD. We are among geniuses today, Shauna, from the University of Pennsylvania. She has been in the business world for over 20 years. She's executive director of the National Storytelling Network Association, the former executive director. She has a resume here that we could not get through in the time that we've got left. Welcome to our microphone, Karen.
Hi, how are you all? It's great to be here, Christopher.
We're doing great. Is the best place to find you just storyit.com?
Yes, that is the best place to find me.
Great. So we've talked a little bit with Debbie, and we're going to keep both of you on for about the next half hour, 20 minutes or so. And I want to talk about the differences in your definitions of storytelling. Because as you may have heard, Karen, Debbie talked about, we need to get our story out there in a way that actually has people be interested in connecting and talking with us more. What do you mean when you say storytelling? Is it a different deal?
Yeah, it is. And I think Debbie would agree with this, is that what you're doing when you are telling your story is you are providing people an experience of who you are and your work in the world. And that's different than saying, oh, I'm a business owner who provides coaching services, right?
Right.
It's more about, well, let me tell you how I got started in this business and what keeps me motivated. Let me tell you about a customer and what happened to them and the extraordinary results they were able to achieve. Or let me tell you about the most favorite project I worked on, right, with a client.
So this, forgive me for interrupting,
right.
but this is familiar to those of us who are coaches, right? Because lots of times, in my coaching practice anyway, I'm not going to just tell my client, hey, knucklehead, look over here, right? But I'm going to perhaps share a story or something that's actually true from my life or something I know about to try and make the point so that they can extrapolate the point. Is that more what you're talking about?
Well, yes, because there's a difference between messaging and storytelling. I don't even like the word storytelling because it creates a picture in our minds of somebody standing up and telling people things. And that is sort of like advertising or marketing where we're pushing messages to people. But the real value in storytelling is that we draw people in. And that's what makes people curious about us, is when we tell a story. And so it's both messaging and pulling people in. It's both a pull technology and a push technology at the same time. And so the more we can share about who we are and what we do using stories, the more connections we build, the more trust and respect we build. Mm-hmm. And I do agree that you've got a very short time to sort of grab somebody's attention, and a story will always do that. So.
Gotcha. Okay, let's get Debbie back in here. So, Debbie, are we talking about the same thing, or should we give these two things different names, sort of telling our story and storytelling?
We're talking about it from probably two different angles, but the bottom line is I completely agree with Karen that when we tell stories, our stories, stories of clients, stories of successes, we do engage people much more. And it's much different from, for example, speaking to the points on your resume. If you're telling a story that illustrates how you got from point A to point B, how you transitioned into your career, how you completed a project, how you benefited a client, that is what draws people in. And I think what Karen and I are both saying is that, at the beginning of the day and the end of the day, you want people to be attracted to continuing to have a conversation with you.
Nice.
And you want them to be able to get to know the authentic person that you are, because that is what will make a difference in terms of whether they choose to work with you or continue to engage with you going forward.
Well, Shauna, I feel like what we should do with these experts is get some advice, get some do's and don'ts here. So, ladies...
Well, yes, I actually, may I interject? I rewrote my little 20-second spiel over the commercial break.
We're ready. Give it to us.
Okay. My name is Shauna Marie, and I help women reignite what sets their soul on fire.
Love it. Love it.
Nice. You got some...
And it makes me want to ask you the next question, Shauna. How do you do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Great. So what we've done there is we've created curiosity, and the credibility took a back seat a little bit, right? Before she was talking about, hey, I do X, I do Y, and I do Z. But here it's like, boom, this is what I do, and it sounds like magic, so we're going to automatically ask her. Is that right, Debbie?
We're definitely going to want to ask the next question, and that's when the opportunity to tell the stories comes up.
Nice.
So when I say to Shauna, how do you do that? Well, let me tell you about. And that's when her opportunity to share stories, to share examples, to really make it come alive happens.
Beautiful. Let's get into some, I was about to ask for just bold advice. I assert that there are things that we're all doing right now, this minute, with our clients that are sort of in the we should stop doing, or we should do it differently in the area of storytelling. So will each of you let us know what your sort of number one don't is, or what's the number one mistake that you think most people are making right now?
In their coaching practices or in marketing their coaching practice?
Oh, I love that question. Let's start with one and then the other. Let's start with marketing, like when we're going out and introducing ourselves or starting conversations with people. What's the big whoops? Or the big don't?
Well, I think for me it's, never leave home without a story to share about your work. And the reason that is because when you're able to share a story, stories travel. And what you do when you share one of your stories with somebody that you meet, let's say at a networking event, or maybe somebody who's interested in your services, they will turn around outside of your presence and tell your story to somebody else. And that's word-of-mouth marketing, and that's priceless.
Nice. Debbie?
Don't tell every aspect of who you are, what you do, and every story that you have in the first opportunity that you get.
Great.
Be ready to drip it.
Oh, haven't you met those people? It's like you pick up the phone and it's like, hi, I'm Joe, and let me tell you the 27 things about my life and what I'm doing and how I can help your business. Actually, Joe, I'm hanging up on you now. That's great. What's the one thing that makes a great story? And if you don't mind, let's go in different order. Debbie, what makes a great story?
I think three things make a great story. Authenticity is one of them. You need to be yourself as you tell the story, using your own voice, your own sense of humor, your own way of talking. The second thing is confidence. And there's a fine line we could explore for hours between confidence and arrogance, but it's important that you be confident because it makes your listener comfortable.
Shauna can tell you I wouldn't know anything about that. And the third?
And then the third thing is truth. Your stories need to be true. They need to be things that you really know to be true about what's happened to you, what's happened for clients, things that you've participated in, so that you're coming from a sincere place.
Man, I love that distinction between truth and authenticity. So we have to be authentic in telling it, because we've all been with someone who told a story that we know they had told 3,000 times before.
Yeah.
But also truth. Don't be embellishing. Don't be like, oh, let me just change the part and say that I won that election or something like that, right? Karen, how about you? What makes a great story?
Well, I love what Debbie said,
Right.
because all of that is absolutely true. And what I experience over and over and over again with my clients when they begin with storytelling is that they make this number one mistake. And they start telling about the story instead of actually sharing the story. So they'll say, oh, this happened, then that happened, then that happened. I went to the store, I bought some bread, I came home and made a sandwich. You know, that's not a story. No, you're not going to pay money for that, right? You're not going to buy that book. You're not going to go see that movie. So what makes a really compelling story is if you can remember an experience, sort of re-experience what happened to you, right, when you were working with a client, or something, you know, what got you started in your business. And if you can re-experience that, then as you're experiencing it, your listener will experience it. And that's also something that makes a story a story.
So it's like anything else. Actually get yourself to that moment, to that experience, to, like, Shauna knows this from being a performer, right? It makes a difference to be in the moment with the emotion of the song rather than, I'm having a good day, bummer that it's a bad song or a sad song, right?
Absolutely.
Shauna?
Yeah, absolutely.
What, I'm just, man, I can't not say this one. And it's going to sound like I'm throwing my spouse under the bus. So I just need to be really clean that one of the things that I've been working with in my personal relationship is that my wife and I are very different in how we tell a story. My stories, you know, I lead with the punchline, right? Want to hear a story about fill in the blank? And then people can listen for it, and I tell the story, and it feels like it builds to a crescendo. My wife does the thing I think we were just talking about. And, you know, just to be clear, my wife is a saint, right? But she sort of meanders, you know, and I've noticed more and more people in the business world sort of meander as they tell the story. And then we went to this place, and then, oh, did I tell you Bob was there? How is there a way that we can actually support people in telling better stories? People around us?
I'll jump in here and say
Thanks, Debbie.
Absolutely. And it comes back to this idea that we only have a certain amount of time to keep people's engagement, and better to have them ask some follow-on questions. Hey, was it Tuesday or was it Thursday?
Mm-hmm.
Than for people to do what I hear all the time, which is, so we met on Tuesday, or maybe was it Thursday? You know, I can't remember. It might have been Tuesday. And by then, you've lost your audience. And one of the things that I say to clients all the time is that if it's a story that's really important to you, you want to spend some time getting yourself comfortable telling it. And that sounds like losing authenticity, but it's actually the opposite. If you practice and really think about what's the essence of what I want to share, and you work on that, then you come across much more authentically, and you're able to do what Karen just said, which I think is so important, which is re-experience it in that moment instead of worrying about details like, was Bob there, or was it Tuesday or Thursday?
Mm-hmm. Really good. Karen?
Oh, yeah. Well, I can see two mistakes that are happening on both ends, which is, it's really great. It's really great.
Yeah.
So, you know, when we meander with a story, what that really tells us is that the person hasn't really figured out what the point of the story is, what the key message is that they want to deliver. And so they're wandering through everything trying to figure that out, and sometimes then they'll usually get to that, but it sort of lends itself to this, you know, wandering kind of an experience. And so the thing to do about that is, and what we always want to do is reverse engineer our stories and figure out what the point is that we want to make with our story, and then craft the story, go back to the beginning after we've figured out the end. And that way we can, as Debbie said, we don't have a lot of time sometimes, and we can just tell the story and laser focus it right to the point and be able to tell a 5-minute story in 2 minutes. Right? That's how that happens.
Beautiful.
But the other mistake that I saw is that
Uh-oh, here we go.
It's really funny. Is that, well, you're doing what a lot of people do, which is, let me tell you a story about, and then you tell what the main point of the story is.
Right.
And it's sort of like, well, gosh, do you read a mystery novel from the very end? Right?
Sometimes.
So
Why do you ask?
page? Right. But what you're doing is you're telegraphing the end of the story. It's sort of like a spoiler alert for people. And if you want maximum engagement and maximum curiosity with your storytelling, then if you kind of avoid that by doing that in the beginning, by saying, let me tell you the story about, it reduces people's resistance, but at the same time increases their curiosity. So just a little tip.
Great. Shauna, I'm going to let you get in here right after this one. Okay, so prep your question because I'm gonna get to you. My question is: are there stories we should never tell? Karen, let's start with you.
Oh, that's a great question. And what comes to mind most is in business, when you've got a group of high-powered people in the room, or maybe even not so high-powered, but it's a mixed group with men and women. One of the things that storytellers in business have often said is that, one of the stories we need to tell is a story about a mistake we made and the lesson we learned, right, the correction of that mistake. And for women in mixed company in business, sometimes that's not what the story you want to tell, right? Because of the judgments that happen as a result. Men can get away with that. Men can tell those failure stories and not have a problem. Women, not so much. So it's not that you're not going to tell those stories. It's you're going to be very judicious about telling those kind of mistake stories and how you recovered from that. Because very often the pushback is, well, why didn't you figure that out before?
Interesting.
Right?
Interesting to bring up gender differences. Thanks for that. Debbie, how about you? Are there stories we should never tell?
Yeah, so I certainly agree with what Karen just said, and as we talk about this topic, I do think noting that there are cultural differences, gender differences, workplace differences when you're telling stories. But the one thing that I typically focus on with clients is not telling stories that paint someone else in a negative light. Your story is your story, and it focuses on the positive of you rather than focusing on being better than or bigger than or stronger than somebody else. So it's less about comparing and more about focusing on the positives that you bring to the table. And that would be true, for example, in a job interview or a client pitch or any scenario in which you are networking to build business, that it should be focused on what you do positively as opposed to how you're bigger, better, stronger, faster than somebody else.
So pretty much that thing I just did about my wife, I should not have done. I got it. Got the message. All right, Shauna, what do you got for these ladies? And I remind everybody we got about 3 minutes left in this segment.
Sure. Yeah, I'm curious, what's the difference between a story that you're telling at a party or with your friends or around a campfire and a boardroom story?
Great. Let's start with Debbie.
A couple to mind. That's a great question. And I think that the first thing to think about in any storytelling is who is your audience and what is your context. So to your point, if I'm around a campfire as opposed to around a board table, not only do I have a very different context in terms of formality, in terms of purpose, in terms of what my relationships are with the other people, but I have a really different audience. And so I need to think about who's on the receiving end. So I might tell the same story, but I might tell it a different way. Or I might say to myself, this is just not the time or the place for that particular story, given the context, given the audience. And then the third piece of that is think about, well, what am I trying to accomplish with this story? What's the point? As Karen said, starting with the back end and reverse engineering, what point am I trying to get across? And then how do I do that best given the context and the audience that I have?
Beautiful. Karen?
What a great question. So I think the biggest difference between when we're doing conversational storytelling, just story swapping with friends, is that we can share all different kinds of stories. However, when you're in the boardroom, and business storytelling is all about this, is that you're usually telling a story because you are wanting to stimulate or inspire somebody to take action.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest difference between like Hollywood storytelling and business storytelling. You don't necessarily go to a movie to be inspired to take action. I mean, that can happen, but that's usually not why you're going.
Right.
But in business, we always are influencing people to have them do something, make a decision, take a next step, follow our recommendation. And so all business storytelling needs to be really about moving people to action.
And I hear the importance of the intention there. All right. Well, it's we're coming to the end of this segment, and I'm excited that Karen's going to continue with us for one more segment today. But it's time for us to bid farewell to our lovely Southern friend, Debbie Stone. Debbie is the CEO of Novateur Partners. You can find her online at Novateur. That's Novateur Partners, PARTNERS.com, or at any Duke Blue Devil game. I just love your bio and your resume, because some of the things I didn't say is she graduated magna cum laude, and she holds a JD with high honors from Duke University Law School. Just incredible woman, and it's so delightful to meet you and find out about your work. Don't forget to go get your free chapter from her book, The Art of Self-Promotion, Tell Your Story, Transform Your Career, by going to www.selfpromotionbook.com. And of course, while you're there, go ahead and buy the book. Debbie, any parting thoughts for us today? Got about 20 seconds for you.
Well, first and foremost, Christopher, thank you so much for having me on the show. Shauna and Karen, Mike, and I would love to hear from any questions, thoughts they have.
Great, and go Blue Devils. All right, we'll be back. Thank you. We'll be back with more of today's edition of the Coaching Show and continue with Shauna Battaglia and Karen Dietz. Right after these words, you're listening to the Coaching Show on WSRadio.com, the worldwide leader in Internet talk. Back after these words.
Gotham Books presents Marriage Rules by Harriet Lerner. The book Martha Beck calls required reading for anyone hoping to interact successfully with any other human, not just for those in romantic relationships. Get your copy wherever books and ebooks are sold, and visit harrietlerner.com to learn how to change your marriage today.
This is Bill Gruber with BizVid Communications, a Southern California video production leader. We've been honored to sponsor, produce, write, and host many of the fine programs on WS Radio over the years. So we understand how important the internet and your website exposure are. As video producers, we know the tricks and secrets to incorporate video to increase your search engine optimization and business success. Visit bizvidcommunications.com to see what we can do for you. BIZVID communications.com.
I can't speak more highly about Progressive Medical Center and how they've helped me get my health back, get my energy back. And Dr. Agoli, when I first came to you guys, you found a thyroid problem, and I had no clue, but that's really common with a lot of your patients, right?
Underactive thyroid is the most misdiagnosed condition in the United States. According to the American Academy of Endocrinology, well over 25% of the population is not being diagnosed properly. It's because of the testing parameters. If you go to your traditional doctor, they could be missing a key component. If you have crushing fatigue, inappropriate weight gain, cold hands, cold feet, losing hair, lack of concentration, even headaches and migraines could be caused by underactive thyroid. At Progressive Medical, we get to the root cause of the problem because we are integrative, and integrative medicine is good medicine. We use a combination of medication, natural supplements, diet, nutrition, lifestyle modification, and that's what makes it so unique because we tailor it to your personal needs, and that's interesting because you are tailored.
Yes, and if you want to get your energy back, be the most vibrant version of yourself, you got to get to Progressive Medical Center. I'm so glad I went. Contact them today through progressivemedicalcenter.com.
Hey guys, CS Keys here to introduce you to San Diego's #1 health meal prep provider, Fresh and Fit Meals. With over 40 menu items to choose from, several pickup locations all over America's finest city, made and delivered fresh, never frozen. Save on time and money. Super convenient and improves the quality of your life. Just visit the website, freshandfitmeals.com, for all the menus and the pricing. Or give them a call at 858-805-5949 for more details. Remember, you are what you eat, so you might as well be fresh and fit with Fresh and Fit Meals.
Cybersecurity is the fastest growing job sector. The San Diego Mayor's Cyber Cup encourages kids to consider computer security as an interesting course of study and a valuable career path. Securing Our eCity helps lead this youth competition to create interest and awareness among students and their schools. The San Diego Mayor's Cyber Cup. Learn more at securingourecity.org or call 619-630-2444.
Talk to me. WSRadio.com.
Accomplishment Coaching is proud to present the following fine programming. Accomplishment Coaching, where coaches lead and leaders coach. AccomplishmentCoaching.com.
Welcome back to The Coaching Show with your host, Master Certified Coach Christopher McCullough.
Well, there's no better party than a party where you're surrounded by brilliant and creative people, and today is such a party here at The Coaching Show. We're delighted to have on our microphones today as a guest co-host, Shauna Battaglia. She is a dynamic and creative entrepreneur. She is a performing artist and a life coach. And as a life coach, Shauna specializes in working with women who have a neglected passion in their heart and are ready to invest in what sets their soul on fire. You can find her on the World Wide Web by going to ignitedu.com, or by listening to her podcast at Ignite Her Fire. We've also got a veteran in business storytelling, one of the originals in the field, the author of Business Storytelling for Dummies, as well as a TEDx conference contributor. No slouch in the academic department with a PhD from the University of Pennsylvania. Karen Dietz is a business storyteller and storytelling expert. She's also the author of, as I said, Business Storytelling for Dummies, which you can find at Amazon or wherever fine books are sold. You can find out more about her by going to juststoryit.com, where there's even free tools so that you can get your story strategy for building your storytelling skills. I want to give a shout out to our longtime our longest time sponsor of this show. For over 15 years, this show has been brought to you, by the frog in my throat. No, by Accomplishment Coaching. Accomplishment Coaching is home of the world's finest coach training program. Not for everyone. It's arduous, more long in terms of time, more hours of actual study, more hours of in-person work, and more coaching, more being coached, more of everything than any other coach training program on the planet. Find out more by going to accomplishmentcoaching.com. It's truly the world's finest coach training program. Shauna, do you remember all the cities that you can find Accomplishment Coaching in?
Let's see if I can. I know there's a program in San Diego,
right?
Seattle,
yes.
Victoria,
yes. British Columbia,
Chicago,
yes.
New York,
the Big Apple, true. One more.
I'm missing one.
Our nation's capital, Washington, D.C., where God knows we could use some coaching these days. All right, so check it out by going to accomplishmentcoaching.com. Let's turn our attention back to Karen and to business storytelling. Karen, what's the story that you tell people about business storytelling? In other words, what's the story that lets us know that business storytelling is useful and important?
Oh, that is, well, gosh, that's such a great question. I mean, I could answer it from the kinds of results people, businesses experience. Mm-hmm. I could answer it from, what happened in the brain. But let's first say that storytelling is 100,000 plus years old, and we're hardwired for storytelling. And so that means it's part of our makeup as human beings. And very often people get stuck in communicating in very kind of, with a lot of business speak or concepts, and they forget that the power of storytelling is really amazing in terms of creating connection. And so I think that storytelling is it's part of our makeup, and we should always, really leverage it, particularly in our own practice. There's all kinds of research that's been done on some of the results business storytelling brings businesses, and 73% of customers, they want ads that tell them a story.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
73%.
And we can all identify with that, right? We've all seen the ad that said, "Hey, come on down and buy a sofa at Bob's Sofa," right? But we've also seen ads that really moved us or inspired us. The polar bears, the Clydesdale horses, something where we saw or a grandma getting a card or something that really touched us much more deeply, and we remember, or we tell our friends, or we say when they come on, "Oh, I love this commercial," right? So that's
right.
That's a bit of storytelling I'm hearing. And so
that is. Mm-hmm.
You were about to give us a statistic, and I interrupted you. 73% of what did what around the story?
Customers.
Mm-hmm.
Customers. The people that you're wanting to attract to your business. 73% of those want to hear a story instead of an ad. And so that's pretty amazing. The other thing is that there was a great research project that was done a few years ago called the Significant Objects Project. And a group of researchers, they got together and they wanted to know, well, what would happen if we took just garage sale items that we picked up for like $1 or $1.25, no more than that. What happened if we would pick up a number of those and then wrote a little personal story to attach to that object, and then sold it on eBay? What would happen? And so they did that. And an example was they bought for 99 cents a statue of a horse's head. And then one of the researchers wrote a little personal story about that, and they put it on eBay, right? And they sold it. But guess how much they sold it for? I mean, what's just your guess? How much do you think that they were able to sell it for?
$3.50. What do you say, Shauna?
I was going to go 200.
Oh my gosh.
Well, it's not quite as much as 200. It's a lot more than $3. So they sold that for $62.95.
Nice. So the story.
And when you think about it, look at that increase. That's a 6,000% increase.
Yeah.
In price.
Just from the story. Just from adding the good or useful or interesting story. Yeah. Absolutely. This reminds me, Shauna, if you get ready for your question, we'll do next. Forgive me for doing the 2 to 1 ratio here, but this reminds me of being in anything, conferences, meetings, anything, and somebody whips out a PowerPoint. And I can't tell you how much it annoys me that I go to meeting after meeting and people read their PowerPoints to me. People, most of us can read, and if you can't say something interesting about this PowerPoint, please be quiet while I'm reading. What do you tell people who are presenters, who are going to give the big talk or going to give their big PowerPoint presentation about bringing story to that? Is there a way?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And in fact, my clients often, after they've worked with me a little while, abandon PowerPoint altogether just because the most effective way to be up on stage is to make your points through a series of stories. And so the first thing that we do when fixing PowerPoint so that they are more story-driven is that we sprinkle stories into the PowerPoint. Now, what I love about storytelling is you're not really memorizing the story rote, right? You're sharing an experience. So all of a sudden you don't have to read the slides because you're not trying to make sure that you don't forget something.
Really,
right?
really clear. I'm so sorry, Karen. Our new format today has boggled me completely, and we're down to our last 30 seconds. I'm so sorry to cut you short, and Shauna as well. I want to let people know the way to reach Shauna Battaglia is to go to ignitedyou.com. And for Karen, find out all the great work she does at juststoryit.com. Karen, would you like to have the last 20 seconds or so to give us a parting thought or a parting shot about for 50,000 coaches or so?
Oh, absolutely. Hey, I'd love to connect with people. I do have a free download. Maybe that's in the show notes.
It is?
Yeah, that gives you a little structure about how to create and work with stories. And so I want to make sure people get that. And hey, if people want to if they have more questions about storytelling, on my website.
Okay, no, it's Just Story It. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week.
Do you want to be a professional coach? Are you in business trying to make a real difference with people you manage or work with? Have you started a coaching practice that isn't quite getting off the ground? Get the skills you need to be a successful coach today with the Coaches Training Program from Accomplishment Coaching. The Coaches Training Program will show